Indeed, we have. We've found Maribye. It just took a little bit of time this afternoon to eventually get him. He's resting nicely. We just kind of turned out onto the main road out of the Muluwanini, and, well, there he was, just kind of plodding his way down the road, which was a welcome surprise. And now he's going to have himself a little nap. He's just kind of taking it easy, waiting for Mom to come back. I'd imagine she's off hunting, and so he's just trying to find himself a nice little spot to rest and relax until Mom decides, well, it's time for her to come back, and hopefully that will be with a meal. I'm pretty sure that's what he'll be aiming for, is to get himself another meal, and this time hopefully he listens, because as we know the other day, he certainly wasn't listening to what Mom had to say. Interestingly enough, he went all the way down by the looks of things towards room 11, and then from there turned and made his way back up to where she left him, which is pretty much where we are right now. And so he was obviously just in the thickets along the Muluwanini riverbed most of the afternoon. We did check around here and scratch and see. It is quite thick though, and so, you know, with a number of vehicles that have been around, it's not been that easy to find tracks. But yeah, also the bush difficult. But eventually we kind of came right. A bit of perseverance paid off, and kind of just doing loops around the same place 3 or 4 times, and a bit of success, which is wonderful. And he's getting so chunky now, isn't he? Look at the size of his neck and shoulders. He's starting to look like a proper little boy leopard. He's losing that kind of cub appearance and starting to get that more sort of sub-adult male look about him, where they get those big heads and still have slightly bigger ears, but their heads and their necks start to get really bulky, and shoulders. It's really cool to see how well he's doing and how much he's developed. His mom has done a fine job in raising him, that's for sure, and kept him in some very interesting places, and it's been fascinating to watch how she's moved him around. Just like with Kalamba, she keeps kind of being ahead of the curve slightly when it comes to raising cubs. She has this ability to almost kind of read situations and know when there's going to be potential danger, and maneuver the cubs according to that. If you look at how she brought this cub towards Torchwood, and every time Inhlangula pushes from the north, she starts to come down south back towards Chitwa. When he goes back, then she drifts back up to First Rock. And I mean, Inhlangula was seen this afternoon inside Torchwood, northern Torchwood. So she's just kind of plays this game with the males where she's able to kind of predict them and their movements, and sort of from there she slowly starts to kind of move the cub around. And also with females, you know, when she starts getting competition with the females, she is very good at perceiving where she needs to place her cubs, which is why she's been so successful in raising them. Obviously it would have been nice if she had kept both cubs. Can you imagine how much fun it would have been to have had this delinquent with a sister? I think we would have had some epic sightings of them. But you know, sometimes when you have two, it kind of divides opinion, but when there's just the one, everybody seems to just love that particular individual. So he probably is getting a lot more adoration because he's on his own and doesn't have to share it with a sibling. But it would have been so nice just to have 2 cubs that play and run around. It's the one thing on Juma that I think in my time at Wild Earth I've kind of felt like has been lacking a little bit after Hosana and Shungile. We haven't had a litter of 2, and they have such fun together that it's always so nice when you see them. They play and they kind of do all kinds of things and move around as a unit, and then obviously seeing Mom with 2 is a special thing. And we've seen a little bit with Sibui and the cubs, but it's not really been enough to kind of, I don't know, satisfy the kind of craving in many ways of a multi-litter, a more multi-numbered litter within a leopard. I mean, 3 would be ideal. Imagine having a Tundi with 3 cubs, how much fun that would be. I think it would be amazing. You never know, maybe Klalam will be the one to produce 3 for us. It'd be very, very cool if she did. It's uncommon, but it does happen. Jacqueline, because it's easier not to. He can hunt for himself, and he will if something comes past. So let's say tonight scrub hare comes past, he might chase it, and it's probably not going to be that as successful as Tundi would be because he's still honing his skills. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of motivation for him to hunt. Mom goes away, she comes back a few days later. Sometimes it's not even a few days later, it's hours later. She has a nice big meal for him. He eats. He doesn't really have to expend energy. It's very simple for him. There's no drive for him to actively hunt. Once she starts to slow that down and his hunger starts to kick in, then you see him starting to hunt. Also remember that it's dangerous in his growing, or his period that he's grown up in, and the way that his instinct works is that while he's still with his mom, he knows that wandering is dangerous and that can get him into trouble and he can get hurt. So he stays in very close places to where his mom leaves him in order to be close by, that when mom comes back, she can find him. And also that he doesn't attract too much attention to himself, because if he goes and hunts and he messes up the hunt and the impalas see him and they start shouting, that can attract the attention of maybe a male leopard in the area. It can attract lions, it can attract hyenas, and all of which can be potentially dangerous. So the instinct with them and the way that mom kind of raises them is to keep a low profile and not move too much when they're still under her care. But as he gets older and she starts to see him progressing and starts to get that instinct to leave him, then we start to see, his hunger drive kick in, and he starts to chase more things as he gets hungry and tries to then, feed himself. And so that hunting technique exponentially develops and increases, and they become a lot more likely to find the food that they need. So yeah, it's just for now, it's being easy. It's like being at home with your parents and your parents feeding you and paying for everything and making sure you don't have to worry about anything. And then eventually that little well of luck runs out and you got to go off on your own and do your own thing. It's exactly the same for a leopard. It's just ease and the safety blanket of mom rather than having to actually put a bit of work in yourself. And the boys seem to be that much more reliant on their mom. I find young male leopards are always trying to stay with mom for as long as possible. Most of them are big mommy's boys.